Hello, everyone. Once again, my name is Greg West, and I'm back here on the Black Community Blackboard channel on YouTube. What we do on this show is we try to highlight our gems in the Black community, the ones that have been in the trenches, but in the front line and also behind the scenes. We have so much negativity that's always portrayed about us. It's time for us to start setting our own narrative and talk about some of the positive things and positive people in our community. We highlight Black business owners. We highlight our Black politicians. We highlight the educators who have helped us and just those hidden gems. So once again, like I say every week, if you know anybody that in our community that you think they need to be highlighted, you can get with us at blackcommunityblackboard@gmail.com. Today, I have a special guest. She's still, to me, I still consider her my mayor. I don't care what nobody else say. Rhine Mclin. She's done a lot in our community. First, she has her bachelor's in psychology and from Pearson's College, master's from Xavier, and she also has a mortuary science degree from Cincinnati College. Her career spanned a long time. She's served in houses in the Ohio General Assembly. She's also been our mayor. She was our mayor for 8 years here in Dayton, Ohio. Right now, she's serving as chairwoman of the Ohio Democratic Party, and also she's over the Board of Elections in Montgomery County. So, it's a pleasure and it's an honor and to have her on the show. So, good morning, Ryan.
Good morning. Good morning. It's such, it's every day is a good day. And even if it's a bad day, it's a good day. And so it's a blessing to say good morning. Thank you so much for having me on your show. And, that one of the things I want to say that to have our own narrative is so important because if we don't tell our story, nobody will. And so I'm going to give a little shout out to the Funk Chronicles and that I do, where we are interviewing people who played a role, and especially African Americans who played a role in the funk history and that maybe not get recognized, but they get a chance to tell their stories. And so I just said that to say, here we are in 2021, waking up to realize that it's extremely important that we tell our story, because if we don't tell our story will not get told in the framework that it needs to. So thank you, Greg, for having a vision to do this.
Thank you. It's people like you who allow me to have visions like this. You and some other people in the community. I've watched you, growing up and everything. And knowing, the history of your father. What I'm saying, I remember my first time being able to vote. I couldn't wait to go check that ballot for C.J. McGlynn and everything like that, because I know all the things that he was doing for our community. And one of his friends was real close to me too, Harold Wright,
Oh
So,
my.
so yeah, so all of those, I would watch those people and I seen that, that the command that they had. And I was like, that's the way that we need to get it back. Because I remember there was a time, and we're going, as we go, we're going to flow back and forth. I remember there was a time that they had to come over here across that bridge and ask us and what was best and everything, instead of what it is now. They come over here and they just get our votes, and then we don't see them or whatever. They give us scraps. And I believe that we need to raise up another generation like we had back then, where we commanded our respect and we were given our respect. And that's one of the reasons why I like working with you, talking with you, the history, and also all of that stuff. If there was one thing right now in our community that you think that we need to address right off the bat, what would it be?
One of the, that's a one has one A, B, C through Z probably. But one of the things that I think that our community needs to really get back into, looking at the things that we can do, that we have control over. We don't have to ask nobody. We can
Right.
do ourselves. And one of those narratives is keeping where we live. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot because it does with self-pride. It's keeping our neighborhood where we live clean. I mean, if you go to a city and you see that it's clean, you're not saying that the people don't have problems, but
Right.
you do say they got pride.
Right.
And that is one of the things I grew up with in our neighborhood. Our neighborhoods were clean. And you would see people out there even sweeping they didn't have grass. They swept the dirt so it looked good. So, it was pristine. And I'm talking about in the Black community. I'm not talking about nowhere else right now. I'm talking about
Right.
in the Black community. This is something we don't need anybody to help us with. We can do ourselves. We need to start showing our own pride.
And I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. And that's why, we started this show because there's a lot of organizations that are out there that people don't know about. And that's I couldn't agree with you more that we as a community have to do. We can't keep on waiting on them to do something for us. And because, like we'll always still get the bare minimum. That's it. They'll give it, and they'll think that we'll be all right with them giving us scraps and won't, so I agree with you on that. Instead of begging to get a seat at the table, it's time for us to make our own table again.
And that's right. And so they drive over here and they see that we don't have. I mean, they don't have to ask us. We don't show no pride because we throwing trash all down and doing all of that. So our neighborhood looks like we feel.
And you,
You know, and so we start taking pride of doing that. Even like if you got a vacant lot next to your house, don't wait on the city because it affects your property value. And the other thing that those things that the city can do, we need to pick up the phone and call. If there's a problem next to you, call and start voicing instead of talking to Greg or talking to me. I'm not in a position to do that. You are.
right.
You need to call the people that, that can do something about it. And one of the things I learned in my political career, which was just so awakening, you talk to people and our chatter is loud. They did this, they did that, and da da da. And you call the source. Say it's a Dayton Daily News article that was really in a bad light of a Black person. And the Black folks in our community, they're doing the chatter. Da, 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 da. And then you call the Dayton Daily News and complain about how this, and they'll say, well, we didn't know nothing about it. Nobody's called. Nobody said anything. So there are the moral of the story is there is a lot of self-help we can do to make our community better. We don't have to wait on the organization. We can take individual responsibility for the space that we're using.
And I've noticed over the last 5 years, maybe 10 years, that there's been a shift too, though, Ryan. Where a shift where we've gone through that negative stage and everything, and I've seen a shift where there's a lot of positive things that are starting to go on in our community again. Where we got a lot, like we got the young Black professionals. We got a lot of organizations that are, that are really doing
Well,
some
we got
things.
Chaz Amos and
Yes.
Chaz, and I mean that's when you talking about an up and coming young man, where he took it upon himself, West Side Proud, where he got folks choosing projects in the community, in our community, to clean up and make a difference. In fact, I did the one with him down at Eden Park. We didn't even know there was a brick walkway, and
Mm.
because it'd been there, and we cleaned it up and show. I mean, those are the kind of things we can do in our community. You got Deja Demings, who's a shining star, and you can't. When you start doing that, you can't talk about without Tay Wiston, who has a vision for and think about this, and all our little pop-ups that are happening in the West Dayton area, and I am so excited about the young people stepping up because some of the old people, we forget. that the John Lewises, the Andrew Youngs, and my father and all, they were young when they did all that stuff.
Right.
They were young. You got to remember, even Martin Luther King, who we celebrate, he died before he was 40
He
years
said he
old.
was
Look
40
what
years
all
old.
he did. So I'm saying that some of us just, some of us need to get out the way, not hold anybody back, promote and push. And whatever we can do, be there to do it to make it better. And that's where I think these young people are saying, you know what, if you're not going to help me, just get out my way and let me do it. And but we need those of us who are seasoned need to be there to say, okay, you got a good idea. I'm not trying to stop you, but have you looked at how you can approach it from this direction? Just like we need to be holding on to the Wesley Community Center. I
Yes.
mean, that's an anchor. I mean, we should be supporting that, because if that goes away, what do we have in our community like that?
And speaking of Wesley, that's where Shine and we're going to have them on as a panel, so we can introduce the community not only to the new executive director but to the staff up there, that people don't even know a lot about Monica and all of them, because like you said, that's a gem in our community, and he's doing his vision right now. Shine Kirkley, the one who's the new executive director, his vision is one that I believe in, Ryan. He's that's where we're going to be holding our classes for our reentry program that start on the 25th up there. And Shine's opened his door up for us, and we're looking forward to the partnership. And one of the things that this channel is going to be geared to and help is get that whole community blackboard. That's where we got the name from the Black Community Blackboard, because he's trying to have a community blackboard so that we don't keep overstepping. Like one organization's having an event today, and then we plan one, and now and it's not getting, either one of the events aren't getting proper attention that they need to get. That way we can have it where we can get out and support each other's events, so that we can grow as a community, so we can find out who all is doing what, so that we can work together and service our community a lot better. And that's one of the things that Shine is working on, and I'm looking forward to doing that. you
And
know
you got the Ruby Tony and the Marlon
yeah,
Shacklefors, who and I think in our community for sure,
right.
reentry reentry is huge in our community, because um when they poured crack in our community, put our men in prison, um I mean, they destroyed us. I mean, and so now we see, of course, when that happens to them, it becomes a social disease. We got to treat it. One of the questions, I don't know what the answer is, but how many black folks Narcan was used on to revive them, when they had people in the paper where they were 5 times they shot them with this to revive them, and I'm like, whoa, wow. um and so this is those are the things, like, we got to encourage our black people to be, of course, now they saying they have a free hiring freeze, but we need to have black folks geared toward being on the police department, to be at the fire department, to be in those non-traditional jobs. It's good to work for public works in the city, but is that where I see the majority of my black people working for the city of Dayton, when the city is over 40% African American? Is that the only job we can do? When I'm driving down the street, and I see on the bridges and all the stuff that they're doing in the city, I don't see no black folks working. Okay, the law may say, but you could at least ask the company to have the will to try to do some of this stuff. Um, I mean, we have to engage ourselves, and we have to come together, because there is strength in numbers. There is strength in numbers.
And one of the things, like you touching on a good subject, as far as like getting in the door, and also making sure other people, because like when you're talking about like these bridges and stuff like that, the construction element, with me being in the union and everything like that, I remember, and I get tired. Well, and I when I was in the field doing what I I got tired of being me and maybe another a black guy on a job, you know. And so one of the things that I've been doing since I'm also the apprenticeship coordinator, I mean teacher for our union, is our union apprenticeship class has been blacker than it's ever been before since I took over. Because as you know, we have to do what we're supposed to do. They do it, they do it. So why don't we look out for our own people? And it's all starting with the paradigm. Like I was saying, there's a paradigm shift that's going on in our community where at first it was like, let me just do for me because, I don't know if I don't want to jeopardize me getting somebody out here and then they mess it up for me. To now we understand the true thing about, community. We have to take care of community. And it's not worth it if I don't take a risk to help somebody else. Somebody helped me out, so I need to help somebody else out. Is the way I'm seeing the things happening. And working with Tony Ruby and Marlon, I think there's where they about to have their program at on there on Salem. He's That's going to be our second location that we're going to have our reentry program at. So I'm looking forward to that. Because we have a vision, and I believe that entrepreneurship is what's going to help our community out the most. Growing up, I remember growing up, I could ride down Third Street and I had nothing but pride because I seen nothing but black businesses. I rode down Gettysburg, even from the balloon man standing out, selling balloons and riding down Gettysburg. It was nothing but black businesses. And now, we don't have that as much. So I believe entrepreneurship is really important. So if you had your way, how would you like if how would you go about promoting entrepreneurship again for our community?
First of all, we already have the young black professionals is one group, but the other thing is we have to start teaching our young people early, whether it's in school or after school. We got to start teaching them the value of economics and finances for the future. I mean, I grew up where in the segregated community where every black business, everything I needed was within my community. I called it the reservation. I didn't have to go off the reservation to do anything, and then you get subjected to that racism. But, you knew you could come back. We had our own movie theaters. We had bowling alleys. We had skating rings. We were communities. Unfortunately, desegregation is probably integrating was probably one of the worst things that happened to the African American community. And because everybody has benefited from us integrating except us.
Except for us.
Except for us. Yeah. We become master consumers. Master consumers. When they talk about, we don't even know how to save $100. We talk about more money. If you can't handle $100, how you gonna handle $1,000? So I mean, those are the kind of things that we have to start young for the next generation and build upon folks that now have ideas that want to be encouraged to do something. Because you got to remember, the guy who invented Wendy's didn't do Wendy's till he was like 40 years old.
Right.
So you're never too old to do businesses. And while we're talking about that, one of the things that really, and there are established black businesses that black people have gotten away from supporting. And one of them is that there's only like two black businesses that have been traditional in our community. One is the funeral home, and the other is hair and barbershops. Those have been the long standing, and we as black people are getting even away from the black funeral home. And I'm in a season where white folks have just shown us so total disrespect.
Right.
That we would choose to take our loved ones to a white funeral home at a time when the president of the United States has shown that they don't even give a doggone about us in any form or fashion. And that the last thing that's going to happen to your loved one is be handled by some white people. And I mean, that's just, but you know, everybody says that's okay because we're talking about we're saving money. But but we'll go to those same businesses and ask for an ad for whatever program we're doing, but you don't see any ads coming from those folks that we're giving our money to. And so we need to start, even if we don't, when we use our money outside of our community, we need to be holding those businesses responsible for putting something back. See, just like, you know, this is just one of those pet peeves with me, you know, wearing a Michael Kors. How much money you're paying to advertise for Mike Kors? How much money has Michael Kors put back into your community? We need to start looking at things from, and that's what I'm talking about. We need to start looking at things from how is it affecting my community? So,
You know, and that's one of the things that we have a couple. Like I said before we started recording, I might have to start going to twice a week. You know, as far as airing these, because my calendar book is filling up fast, and a lot of the people that I've been talking to are some of these young entrepreneurs. You know, one of my shows I have coming up soon is these two young black brothers, man. They started their own clothing line, you know, and we need to support those people in our own community.
we know who they are. We just need to know
Right.
who they are.
And that's why, I'm a firm believer that, this might start small, but I believe it will grow as long as we keep getting the community behind it and letting them know these are the people who are doing things out here, and start supporting these black businesses. That way we can start bringing everything back into our community, and teaching them the importance of keeping the dollar in the black community more than just 67 seconds. You know, every other community keeps their money in their community. The average dollar doesn't stay in the black community not even a whole minute. It's because we have some black businesses, but we don't support them like we should. You know,
Well, we also have, Greg, we also have what I call the gray market. And the gray market is very strong in our communities because that helps us survive. And such as if I make rolls and I knew how to make rolls, then I have a little following out there that I sold rolls for. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm not a registered, what we call a registered entrepreneur.
right,
And so we have a lot of that going on in our community because it's just too complicated for us to go mainstream. So we stay under the radar, and that's what you call, it's not a black, we're not doing anything illegal,
right.
but it's called gray market. And our gray market is really, really strong in our community, that we share it and we get along with it. I mean, it's just like we got a lot of places we can go eat, but and they're seasonal, such as I mean, like I don't like to be, just like Jasmine has, who used to have Delish. They made it too complicated for her to kind of work downtown, so she has her food truck. And so the food truck business, was interesting. We've been doing food trucks for a long time, because I remember the guy who did the whole hot dogs and stuff.
The hot dogs, the watermelon man, all of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, food trucks is nothing new to the black community. And, just like Bruce is out there with his barbecue, and then you got these other guys, up the street where, and when the weather is good, I had the trap truck and all these things that, like Taste of Jamaica, these are that's what I call, we have it. We just need to, this is why this is a good format, because unless you're out there in beating the bushes, and that's what I call it, unless I walk the city, I walk the west side like crazy. I mean, that's my urban gym. And so you see all these things, and if you're not out there, you don't know they even exist.
Right. And that's
And
one of the problems I've seen over my close to 5 decades of being on this earth. I remember growing up, like I say, what we've been talking about. Everything was centralized here. Now we all run to the suburbs and we forget about where we come from. And then we get upset about the treatment that we get, and from these people, and we forget that it wasn't always like that. We created this, so now it's time for us to create it. Bring it back the way it's supposed to be, not the way it was. The old African, I talk about this a lot. The old African proverb that it takes a village to raise a child, and with us being, people don't want to realize it as Black Americans, we're still somewhat in our infancy stage because we've never really had freedom, and we're still
No.
trying to learn how to do it. And when we were talking about the integration and the desegregation, I agree that was one of the worst things that happened to our community. And I think we're starting to wake up and realize that, and we're starting to migrate back to trying to help our own communities, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take us to do it. We need strong people like you in leadership. We need people like Shalise coming up. She's going to be one of our guests coming up, Shalise Turner Sloss. We need people coming up, like that, who are willing to lead and understand the needs of our community,
Well, I mean, just like Shanice, I mean, Shanice has worked for the city of Dayton. You got Jared, who has, very vocal. I mean, we have to reclaim who our leaders are going to be, not who, as they quote, they choose for us. We have to start saying, this is who we support. This is who we want to represent us, and know that there is still, I think we've gotten away from it, but we really need to get back to, there is strength in numbers. There's strength in numbers. And when they peel you off and, say this, you are supported here or you supported there, making you feel like you're the only one of what? Just like I tell people when they say, well, you were the first to this and the first to that. I was the first to be last. It wasn't like I was the very first person to do any of this. I was the first to be last. Whenever we, and it's a thing, it's a shame we're still talking about in 2021 people being the first to do this and the first to do that. Not that I don't have respect for that, believe me, because I got the stripes on my back from getting to where I am. But that's not a form of celebratory, because we got to be making the way for others to come along. I don't want to be the first and the last.
Right.
I want others to be able to come along the way that I paved the way for them. And I think that's what legacy should be all about. I want to talk about legacy for a minute. And legacy is not having a building with your name on it, because eventually it'll be torn down.
Right.
Legacy. And each one of us has a responsibility to create a legacy. And the legacy is how you touch and help other people. Because if they carry it on to the next level, then your legacy is not in vain. And so trying to be important, there's a time and a place for that. But, just like giving a lot of accolades, I get real nervous about living obituaries. That's what I call bios and stuff like that. They number living obituaries. So, but I want somebody to say that, you helped me do such and such. That means more to me, that I made a difference in somebody's life than all this other, I don't want to call it junk, but some folks are really stuck on that. And we as Black people get stuck on it because we haven't had the opportunity to be celebrated.
Correct. And that's, that's
and why. So I understand that. So, I mean, I'm not knocking that, but I'm just saying that I'd rather for somebody to tell me what I've done to help them than the pat on the back of celebratory. You see,
right?
But that's me, because I'm gonna be out there in I like walking the urban gym, and most of I got a big fan club of those who says I am a Rhine Mclin urban gym dropout because they can't keep up. And Deborah Scales Howard is probably the president, because she was my first person to drop out, but she'll do 1 year. Once a year she'll get out there and scuffle with me. So
You know, that legacy part that you were talking about, you know, right before we went on air, we were talking about, you know, like people, you know, the legacies, like you talk, like you were saying, when we could say, hey, this person really helped me, and stuff like that. And you know, like that's why we really want to highlight these people, you know, because we don't want them to get their roses when they're dead. You know, it's time for us to start talking about, you know, the Beam Davises, and you know what I'm saying, the David Hendersons, you know, the people like that, the Margaret Peters, you know, the people like that, you know, who have been a force in our community. Because you know, our educators don't get the due that they need, that I believe they deserve. You know, they put
well,
up.
and Greg, you know what? The other thing is this, and this is what's really scary. We don't have enough Black people going back into education. I mean, even with my broke down self, I've been trying to, you know, I was subbing and doing those kind of things, but because our children need to see,
People like us.
people, they need to see us. I mean, just think, I grew up, I didn't with nothing but Black teachers that were all dressed up and taught us that we had to be better than good just to be in the game.
Right, right. You know,
You
and,
know, there was no such thing as striving for mediocrity.
you know, and that's the reason why I believe that we need to highlight these people, because you know, like I was saying, our educators, I don't believe they get their just due. Because you know, especially the ones who are in it for the right reasons, the ones, you know, like my ex-wife. I remember when she's been a teacher for 26 years now, and I remember the struggles where they getting stuff for the classroom, where we were coming out our own pockets to get stuff like that. And I watched how, you know, they've over the years the educational system has really started letting our community down, where they're taking programs out, and you know, that used to be meaningful to us, like you know, shop and stuff like that. Because everybody isn't meant to go, or everybody isn't college material, and it doesn't mean that you can't have a successful career doing stuff with your hands. You know, like now we're starting to go back to the trades. But I remember back growing up, the trades were an honorable thing. You know, for you know, a lot of Black people raised their families off of trades, and we lost that along the way. So I believe that you know we have to keep on pushing that. You know, like I said earlier, I hope more of our people get in the unions now. That you know, and it's funny to me and some of the other union people say, "Where are you getting all these people from?" I'm like, "I'm getting them from the places you're scared to go to, are restored and returning citizens, are recovering people in our community that are recovering from you know addiction, are people who are just you know just never knew how easy it was to get into the trades and everything." Because one thing I believe is if you help one person get in an apprenticeship program, you help them change the climate of a whole family, where the average income with four working people in a household, and you're making less than $32,000 in that whole household, and you take one person and you teach them a trade. Now that you know that changed the whole climate. And what it does is also now their cousin or their friend wants to get in. So now we're helping our community come back alive. And the thing is trying to teach them, even if you move to the suburbs, still give back to your community. You have to come back. You have to come back and help. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, and the thing is that remember, well, back in my day, you know, folks went to General Motors and worked, and I'm gonna tell you, the folks at General Motors made more money than those of us who went to college,
Right.
and they lived a good life, and it was the trades that everybody shouldn't go. Everybody's not cut out to go to college, and nobody, and I can't recall nobody in my day put down anybody that was doing trades and that encouraged you to do certain things in the trades. There was a place for everybody. And I tell you, this is my joke of the day, is that when the plumber shows up with a three-piece suit, you know you're in trouble. And 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 I mean, those are the type of, the plumbers, I even called you about the cement. I mean, there are so many things out here that the trades are coming back to life. I mean, you hear people talk about, I can't find nobody to do any cement work. I can't find anybody to do any brick work. I can't find, it's become, well, those were honorable professions that and we need to get back into the skills, because skills are important. You go to travel to Europe or someplace like that, they hold on to their stuff. They really do. And going back to the educational system, that we had field trips when we were kids,
Yeah.
and we got exposed to things, and half the battle is exposing our young people to things that they didn't think that they could have. If all you see is on TV, that's a delusional. That's delusional. And so to know that, I mean, I had like Bar Mitch Webster. I took him one time kayaking right here in the city of Dayton. Never been here all his life, never knew it. I mean, he does poetry and things like that. But, and just like my Denise Hinton, she has a business, Single Parents Rock, that deals with domestic violence. I mean, we got people out here who are doing good things. We just don't. But it's all because they've been exposed to different things. And when you get exposed to something, it grows your mind. It really grows your mind.
I agree. I agree. So let's change the focus. What's on the horizon for Ryan McLin right now?
Well, Rhine Mclin right now just finished up being the chair of the Ohio Democratic Party. And that's been an interesting trip. I was I have been the longest serving vice chair. I was the vice chair for like 15 years, and I was the chair for 14 days. And moving on, but it's a season to come home. And one of the things I'm considering is where I'm going to be best utilized here in my community at this stage in my life. And being at this stage of my life means, Greg, that there's things that I can say and do that the repercussions of it won't interfere with my future political thing. So, one of the things, I mean, and unfortunately, we have to look at what's best for our community.
Correct.
And one of the things that I'm very concerned about is training our African Americans to be campaign managers, to be good candidates, to understand the whole political process, and that we have to acknowledge, whether we want to or not, that when it comes to political parties, everybody in the top of the political parties as a whole are white, and they're going to be white first.
Right.
But they want to hold Black people to be a Democrat or Republican, and hold that to you to be a badge that you have to shine in blood. What we have to learn to be is unapologetically Black.
I agree.
And then identify with a party one way or the other. And being unidentifiably Black means that maybe my agenda may not be the same as theirs.
I agree.
And you got to remember, whoever brings you to the dance, that's who wants to dance with you. So maybe, we might have to start looking at doing more things as independent Democrats or independent Republicans, or just plain old independents, to make sure our voices are heard and we are respected. And that's what's missing right now, the respect of the African American community when it comes to their voting block. We're 40-some% of the city. We got a heck of a strong voting block. We need to understand their strength in numbers, and we can dictate who's going to be there for us and hold them accountable. And that's, I don't know what I'm saying here about me and my future, but I'm saying that this is very important. And one of the things that I've really been interested in is developing a McGee McLin Institute,
Mm.
um, and which would do all the things that we're talking about. So,
Well, shoot, I like that idea. If you do, let me know where I can fit in and help. As far as like if you move forward with the McGee and McLean Institute, because that's one thing. As you know from the time that we've been talking over these last couple years, so I'm about community first. That's one of the things. Like when I when I got into the race, it was because people said that they were going to do this, do that, and then I looked up and it was all me. But then by that time, the community had gotten behind me, and I learned a lot of good lessons about that. And one thing I really believe the lesson that I learned is that when you would talk about the strength in numbers. I still don't, like a lot of people say, oh, you ran a campaign and you didn't win. And I think I won because, coming from my background, being unapologetic black, well, first of all, I never hid behind that. I told
that you were,
Yep.
yes.
First of all, and I mean, I never everything I talked about. First of all, was what was best for our community, because I believe if we heal our community, we heal in the city by itself. Because our culture is what this whole community and this whole United States is built on. They steal our culture and they try to make it theirs. So
and and and, and they financially gain from stealing our
yeah,
culture.
yeah, all the time, you know. And then like I was unapologetically black first of all. Then I didn't hide my past. I had a lot of these people who were telling me, "Well, you addressed it now. Don't talk about it no more." I said, "No," because see, like as soon as you dig it up and you know what I'm saying? Because they're going to do their digging. And as soon as they dig it up, they're going to say, oh, what you had to hide it for. So I believe, like, about being straight up of who I am was one of the best things I did. And I believe that's what we need to do with our future politicians, the ones that are coming, support them no matter what their past are, as long as that we know that they're going to be a force in our community. That's one thing. Every other culture has done it. We're the only. I was being interviewed by Kenya Kenya Baker earlier this week, and I said that we're the only community that shunned our underworld people. Every other community benefited from them. A lot of businesses were started off of the money from the mafia, from whether it was the Jewish mafia, the Italian mafia, the Irish mafia. But when we got in power, where we were making more money than we could ever see in the '80s, which when they called themselves flooding our community with crack to try to destroy us, and we started seeing more young black millionaires, 16, 18, 20 years old. We shunned them instead of doing what every other community. I don't condone. I got wrapped up in that lifestyle, and I don't condone none of that. But they still. If you look at all these other communities, a lot of
They
them,
benefit. They benefited.
right, and and they use that to destroy to my whole generation. You know, we were either locked up or a lot of us were killed during that. And you know what I'm saying? And they seen what they thought that we were going to destroy our community with. They seen that how we were using it to make power for ourselves. So they had to do something, you know what I'm saying? They had to start locking us up and, all that time that they gave us. And a lot of us are coming home now. That's why I believe the reentry programs are really important now, you know? Yeah.
Oh, definitely, most definitely. And just think about it. As a drug dealer, let's just take it as an instant. That's a heck of a business person.
Yes,
I
it
mean,
is.
and 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 how the breakdown and the divisions of the system work. So all that's happening now is that they're transferring those skills to another legitimate way. But to be a business person, and they saw themselves as business people, drug dealers and things like that. You got your product, you got to disperse your product, you got to be accountable for your salespeople, and I mean, it's a very complicated, sophisticated business.
Well,
And
I
so
know.
now we just asking these folks to transfer those skills to a legitimate area. So, because they're smart and you can't take it away from them. And so I have respect for that. The only problem that I had is that I'm sorry it was on the backs of our people. But as
Right.
you said, we did not materialize it into a long-standing legacy, a legacy of businesses, housing, and things that we could have done with all that money. I mean, we we were ODing with gold around our necks and stuff like that. So,
Oh, I
you
agree.
know,
I was one of the ones who got caught up in, that's why that Felons with a Future program is so important to me, where we are teaching, the ones coming home now how to become entrepreneurs. We're teaching them how to become business owners. Because, like you say, to sell drugs on the level that me and some of my friends were, you had to be sophisticated. We were businessmen, like you said, had to know about your product. You had to know how to market it. Even when you got bad product, you still had to move it. All of that stuff. So, now we're using these skills. I'm teaching these men and women how to become business owners and use those same skills to do legal things that you can look back and be real proud of. It's funny because like my aunt, she was a judge. She retired in 2010 up in Detroit, and it was for years. We've been talking lately, and for years I would be in Detroit and wouldn't even contact her because I was so embarrassed of what I was doing. So now we're trying to give the pride of like you can have a legitimate business, so you can be proud of what you do and don't have to avoid your family and everything.
but for 13 years, I served on the Correctional Institutional Inspection Committee, and I went to all these different prisons. And I would talk to the guys and I would tell them, hey, I know you're smart because of what you did and everything, but I want you to get so angry with me when I talk to you that your goal is to say, I'm never coming back here no more. And so that's what my goal was. And I run into so many of them that I spoke to or I helped while they were incarcerated I never shied away. Let me just say this, and because I know we're getting ready to wrap up, and this has been longer than what we had anticipated.
Right.
I love Black people, and to help Black people, you got to love them down in the bowels of your soul. Because sometimes we got to fight our people just to help them.
Right.
But if you understand our history, we should never be walking with our heads down. Never walk with our heads down. We have so much pride. We have so much dignity. We've contributed so much. And we need to be at all times unapologetically Black.
Yes, we do. Again, Ryan, I'd like to thank you for taking the time on this morning and coming on. It's been a good conversation. I always get excited anytime that I get a chance to talk with you, and also any of our Black leaders and everything. And hopefully, like I said, you will always be my mayor. You will always be my mayor.
You never know. You might get to be. You might have to get a chance to repeat it and say it twice. Okay. But you're always welcome to go for an urban gym walk with me.
Just let me know and I'll be there as long as my schedule is open. I will do that, because one thing I'm looking forward to is being able to get tutelage for you, because I'm not done with the political stuff. I'm not.
You shouldn't, and you shouldn't be.
I'm not. Right now, taking a couple years off to make sure I get my nonprofit up and running good and everything. But just be a force in the community the best way I can. But I'm not finished, because we need more people that look like us, come from out of what we've been through. Who best to understand how to fix a problem but the person who's lived in the problem?
And that's true.
Right. So again, I'd like to thank you, Ryan, and I'm looking forward to that urban gym walk with you. Just let me know when, and if you do decide decide to run again, let me know, and I'll be right there by your side doing everything I need to do to help you win.
Thank you.
All right. You have a good day.
Stay safe, everybody.
Yes,
Stay
yes.
safe.
Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.